Come in, Ocean Sailor. Come in, Ocean Sailor.
So don't forget, viewers, please help us out by liking and subscribing. Thank you very much. It's Dick abroad. It's Dick in the UK here. How are you?
Yeah, hi Dickie. Yeah, I'm okay.
Good,
Sorry,
good.
sorry, I've been a bit difficult to track down. I know you've been trying to get me.
Well, I have.
Well, yeah, I saw that you sent me the MAIB report.
Yeah,
I got to confess, mate, I haven't had two chances to have a look at it.
no, fair enough.
We're in the
Fair enough.
process of launching and taking the first Kraken 58 out of the yard today to go to launch.
Okay.
So I'm a bit hassled. I
All
scanned
right.
it. I had a quick skip through it,
Right. Okay.
but don't give me too many quizzes on it.
No, fair enough. Understand. Well, unlike you, because I'm not launching a boat, I have had time to digest it, and it's pretty damning. Bearing in mind this is an interim report, and
Yeah,
as the MAIB say, that when the boat is eventually brought to the Bayesian, we're talking about, of course, when the Bayesian is brought to the surface, some of their findings might alter. But one of the
yeah.
findings that
Yeah, I realise.
well, let's just start at the beginning, and we for listeners to say that this is a 30 million pound super yacht, the Bayesian. She sank last August while at anchor, with the tragic loss of 7 lives while anchored off Sicily. Now, the weather was deteriorating when this vessel was underway, and it sought refuge under the lee of the land off Porticello. Very sensible anchorage. It was under the lee. There was a
Yeah, that's exactly
northwesterly
what I'd do,
coming
Dick.
in.
That's exactly what I'd have done.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the first thing that tells you this is that these aren't some sort of cowboy crew. Anyway, the weather deteriorates, and they get a 70-knot gust, which rips the awning in half, and she takes on a list of between 10 and 20 degrees. That's no, sorry. Before that, she takes on a list of between 10 and 20 degrees in 30 knots of wind.
So Dickie, for me, quickly scanning it, it looks like the crew's pretty well exonerated. Do you read it that way?
I do read it that way at this stage, bearing in mind, of course, it is an interim report. The full report
Yeah, sure.
will have to wait. The findings of the MAIB, which is what caused the accident, will have to wait until the vessels come up. Indeed, so will the criminal investigation have to wait until the vessel's brought to the surface. But
That's still they're still plugging away with that, are they?
they are still, yes, it's running concurrently with the
Yeah.
MAIB's investigation.
But with a little bit of luck, what's said in that report, that that as far as I'm concerned, really brings the main culprit or the main problem, if you could say that, as the ludicrous instability of this huge yacht. And that's how you read it?
I
mean,
do read it.
as I say, apologies, Dick. I had literally 10 minutes to scan through
No,
it.
that's fine. It's fine. I mean, when we talked about this initially, when the vessel first went down, we had their statistics: the height of the mast, the length, the LOA of the boat, the fact that she's got a lift keel, and you reached some pretty profound conclusions then. Now, this interim report is into the quote design, stability, escape routes, operation, and emergency procedures, as well as weather conditions.
Dickie,
Unquote.
just one question.
Yeah,
I think, and as I say, not 100% certain, but you've read it properly.
I have read it. Yeah, I have read it in depth.
Vanishing.
Yeah.
What was the point of vanishing stability? The AVS, as it's referred to in design.
The AVS was 70.6 degrees, and that was according to modelling by Southampton University.
That's ridiculous.
Is it?
That
Yeah.
is ridiculous. Well, the bigger the boat, the greater you'd expect the stability to be. And just to give you some kind of comparison, and the viewers some kind of comparison, the Kraken 58 that we're going to launch today's AVS is 134 degrees,
Wow.
almost double that.
God.
And so this boat, and this was my point in the very first off, this boat, its design was fundamentally flawed by the requirement for this ludicrously tall mast.
72 metre
that-
mast.
72. That this boat couldn't take a knockdown of more than 70 degrees. That's not even horizontal, of course.
No.
So, and then did it say anything about the angle of vanishing? Sorry, did it say anything about the down flooding angle?
Well, it did. It did indeed. Now, the MAIB say that the yacht's stability information booklet, known as the SIB, I'm sure you're aware of that, did not include the data required to prevent down flooding when motoring, i.e., when the sails were stowed and the centre plate was raised. Now, of course, she was at anchor and the centre plate was raised. So the crew had no way of knowing that she was vulnerable because it wasn't in the SIB booklet, which the boat had.
Certainly that vulnerable. I'll tell you what, to be at anchor and get 30 knots of wind and have a boat pushed over by 20 degrees, that's incredible, Dick.
Well, that strikes me as that.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I would expect a boat with the proper stability required to be considered a sailing boat. I would expect that boat to list by maximum 5 degrees.
Really?
5 degrees.
Yeah.
And 20 degrees and 30 knots of wind, which you're going to get all the time.
Yeah.
And by the way, as I said, do apologise, Dickie, that this is so, and to the viewers, there is a bit of background noise where I'm in the hotel still. So
Okay.
I'm going to be hot to the yard soon. But if anybody, if it's not a very good recording, it's the best we can do at the minute. So
no, that's okay. I appreciate it. It's a bit ad hoc.
But anyway, anyway, coming back to it, my point is this, and you will remember that the design of this boat was such that they had cut away the side decks and the coaming to allow easy access from a very deep welled cockpit, which you could otherwise call, a swimming pool in waiting. That was cut away so that then this boat go over 70 degrees. And I think the down flooding angle, I seem to remember reading it somewhere that somebody had estimated it was at 45 degrees or something. That means it's over at 45 degrees. Now it's flooding over that border.
Yes, that's right. That was an early report, wasn't it? Said that.
Yeah.
They haven't mentioned that here, but what they have said, which really leapt out at me in these pages, this is a direct quote, bearing in mind, Dick, what you said a year ago when it happened. It said, there was no indication of flooding until water came over the starboard rail and, quote, within seconds entered the internal spaces down the stairwells, unquote.
What a horror story, Dick.
It is a horror story. I mean, what on earth are these wells doing there?
Well, this is, you see, what you would normally have in pretty well every yacht I've ever been on, you would have a bridge bulkhead between the cockpit and the saloon.
Right.
So you know what you do yourself, right?
Yeah.
You'd step up over that threshold and then go inside and go down some steps into the saloon area. That's the normal. That's the normal thing. Oh, but that's dreadfully inconvenient.
Yeah.
And what they obviously wanted was to present this palatial situation where the cockpit, the aft cockpit and guest, outside area linked directly to the saloon without the effort of needing to step over anything. And you had those ridiculous sliding doors, patio doors. Everybody would recognize these as patio doors. They're lethal on a boat. Yeah. Because I tell you what, if you're walking through one of those and it undogs, you're going to get sliced in half in the first place. But that's not really the issue. The issue is then the water had to all have piled into this huge pooling area, coming over the cutaway side decks into the cockpit and straight into the saloon. And the horror story, and it's a real horror story, and this is a human tragedy that's beyond belief, really. that whole lot of that water, as it comes over in hundreds of thousands of gallons in a few minutes, is then going to cascade, or did cascade, as
Yeah.
I'm certain it must have done. I don't know what they said, but cascade straight down the stairs into the guest quarters. So as those poor sods have tried to come out of their cabin, they're faced with, I think I called it before, Niagara Falls. They've
Well,
got to try and swim up.
you
Is that, do they cover that
you
at all?
you, you did say that, and this report actually has a quote where I think it was the chief engineer or the chief officer fought down to try to help some of these people in these cabins, and some guests used furniture drawers as a makeshift ladder to escape their cabins, and then came out and were fighting, yes, water coming down the stairs, and they had to fight their way out through the water. Other guests were using torches on their phones to search for others below the water.
You know, I mean,
In just 15 seconds, the yacht listed to 90 degrees. The generators immediately shut down,
well, of
being
course,
replaced by emergency battery-powered lighting.
well, two things, Dick. Generators and stuff won't run when they're over at 90 degrees anyway, because the oil,
Right.
the oil in the sump will all obviously go away from the sensors, and then
Right.
generators would shut down. But in any case, by that stage, I should think they're underwater. Which sorry, I'm pretty sure, so correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't it go down stern first?
Yes, it did. It was witnessed by the skipper of another vessel nearby, the Sir Robert Baden-Powell, saw this horrible dark triangle in the night, wondered what on earth it was, and then suddenly realized to his horror it was the bow of the Bayesian as she sank. But the MAIB report said the vessel's mast had accounted for 50% of the heeling moment, and that a wind of 63.4 knots or less than that was sufficient to quote, knock Bayesian over. Now, I know it's a lot of wind, but nevertheless.
Now, Dick, you're going to expect a sailing boat to sail under sails, with sails up at 60 knots of wind. I've had 60 knots of wind, mate, and I'll tell you what, I mean, it isn't funny, but you can't, you would expect that a sailing boat with its counterbalance, obviously, of its keel, you would expect that boat to be sailing. Never mind about no sails up, and just the bloody mast. Sorry about that. Just the bloody mast. I'm going to say it again. I can't stop saying it. Just the bloody mast was sufficient to knock this boat over in 60 knots a wind. Ludicrous.
It is.
You know, if everything if we're reading this, or you're reading this right, then I mean, I think, you know, like, the crew must take great solace from this.
Yeah,
they must, because
question.
You know, the captain and crew. You know, I never did see that this was something that it would be reasonable to expect anybody to actually be able to foresee, because where did the extraordinary weather event, the down blast, where did that figure in it? There was a down blast, did they say?
They think they're not sure about that. I think it's that the report says that was possible. Somebody on the boat recorded a down blast of 87 knots, obviously a hell of a lot of wind. But they don't know. There was another vessel in the same anchorage nearby.
I thought I saw some weather information that showed this extremely unusual event that may have only been 50 meters or 100 meters across. I mean, it's not a wind that's, by the way, for everybody isn't familiar with it, this is not a normal storm wind that's flowing at you. This is coming straight out the sky, hitting the water, an incredible kind of tornado type effect. Well, the other way around, the blast is coming down. And obviously that's hit somewhere close to the boat and just knocked her straight on her side.
Yes, the yacht, of course, was at anchor when the wind started to pick up. But at 30 knots, she was already dragging downwind at making 1.8 knots, presumably because of this huge mast. But
Yeah,
then the other yacht nearby, the
wind.
Robert Powell, was also dragging, to be fair.
Yeah.
But one survived and one didn't.
Yeah, well, I mean, you could reckon that the other boat didn't have anything like an angle of vanishing stability. I'm certain it must. You would never. I would never say. You would never sail on a boat with an angle of vanishing stability of less than 90 degrees. It's ridiculous.
Well,
I mean, you don't have to be. You don't have to be. A design engineer to
no,
understand.
quite.
To understand that if the boat's
Yeah.
on its side and it doesn't come back upright, that's going to be a bit of a problem. If you,
Yeah.
I mean, people don't understand how a boat could be, knocked down like that. Under normal circumstances, most sailing boats never would be.
No.
But what you have to bear in mind is that a boat can get caught sideways in a big wave. And at that point, the boat goes up in the wave. And then you've got a small angle for the wind to knock it down. That's how it really
Right.
happens.
Okay.
And that's why, at Kraken, well, the mast can be at 40 degrees in the water and she's still going to come up the same way. Once a boat rolls and goes over, that I won't, it's not automatic that boat is going to founder, but it's a very, very high chance. Unless somebody when that happens, unless somebody is right on the ball and shuts down the coach roof entrance and the companionway, which you do, you pull the two of them up like that,
Yeah.
one across and one up, and then the boat should be sealed inside. But of course, instead of that, you've got patio doors. I mean, don't get it.
Well, I mean, the thing is, Dick, one of the there's been a lot of speculation about what hatches were left open on this boat and was the garage left open. Well, no, it wasn't. The crew shut the hatches. Why did they shut the hatches? Because it's pouring with rain.
Yeah.
So she was watertight, except, of course, she wasn't because of these wells. I mean, you've always said that all yachts are compromised, but it seems to me this yacht, they've compromised on all the wrong things.
Well, Dickie, you go out there.
It's a villa put to sea.
You go out there at sea, Dick, and the sea's not going to forgive your mistakes.
No.
It just doesn't. And it's bad enough because obviously human error does enter into some tragic situations. Of course it does. But actually, my deep concern right from the very go was that this was an absolute disaster waiting to happen because of the design characteristics that this boat had of being so tender. And I will tell you, nobody that stepped on that boat would expect this huge 56-meter yacht to have these vulnerabilities. I don't think they'd expect it.
No.
And if you put it this way, if you was going to go and buy a boat and you're going to spend 30 million quid on a boat, and the designer said to you, yeah, look, we can do all those things, but you do realise if it goes over by 70 degrees, the boat's going to flood. And is that all right? You might make a different decision, Dick. You might say, oh, well, maybe I don't need that enormous mast just to make me the tallest mast in the world. You might say that, mightn't you?
Well,
I mean, I really, we're back to the biggest dick competitions and stuff like that here. And I don't think, considering the terrible tragedy that this is, we can't take any of this in any kind of a frivolous sense.
No,
but
of course not.
I'm buggered if I'm going to keep quiet.
No, I'm glad you haven't.
Let them continue to try and throw the skipper and his crew under the bus. This is where it's really not fair, and it's not right.
One thing, Dick,
that's my point, and it's my opinion, and I'm going to have it. And that's
fair enough. I mean, what more drive can be added to a boat that size with a mast of 72 meters? What's wrong with the mast? That's even too much. Of 50 meters. How much drive?
Hang on.
Yeah, okay.
Dick, I'll explain.
Right.
You could maybe have got away with a mast of that height and you could then justify that if you had a deep fixed keel.
Yeah, quite.
But it didn't have, and why don't you? The depth of that keel, I haven't got a calculation in front of me, but the depth of that keel, and is obviously it's got to be compatible with the weight of that keel at its farthest out extreme point.
Right. Yes. Yes.
And so you could reckon that starts to get up to, if I'm going to make a guess, I'm going to say that's going to get up to 9-10 meters of draft. Yeah, that means you can't get in anywhere.
No,
you can't get in anywhere, right? You can't get in any pool anywhere, unless it's a commercial ship pool. So you don't want that. So you say, okay, well, let's go the other way. Let's have this fantastic mechanism that hauls the keel up so we can get inshore to go into ports and harbours and, kind of places where they were. But by doing that, you then compromise the stability. That is the cocktail, in my view. That's the cocktail, what's all occurred here. You've got this ludicrous mast that's got fantastic windage.
Yeah.
Got the lack of stability of the fact that the keel is up. And before you start blaming the skipper for that, they were going inshore to get out of the wind.
Exactly. They were preparing for disembarkation the following day.
Yeah. So of course the keel's up. Yeah. And you'd expect the keel to be up, when they're going into anchor in that situation. And then with those two critical faults, they've then copped a very, very unusual and freak, you could call it freak weather event that has blasted the boat over. And then comes your next cocktail of disaster, the cutaway side decks, the low aft cockpit area, and the direct one level connection to the saloon and to the interior of the boat, protected only by sliding patio doors.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. That's it. I can't believe that, if they manage to pin it some other way on the skipper, I'll be completely amazed, and I think it's wrong.
Well, it's not looking that way anyway, Dick. So there we are. Yeah.
All right. Well, good, Dick. Thanks ever so much for sending that on.
No worries.
Quick.
Okay.
When does it actually come out? It comes out today, I think, doesn't it?
It does, yes. Yeah.
You got a preview of it?
I did, yeah. Yeah. I was able to digest it yesterday. Yeah.
Well done for your persistence.
All right. No worries.
Well, everybody, this is, this is a terrible and tragic event that's occurred here. I do hope that it throws some light on the situation, and I do hope that at the end of all of this, the skipper and crew can walk away with their heads held high.
Well, if this MAIB, which is an interim report, if this stands up and becomes the final report, I'm sure the crew are completely exonerated. And bearing in mind, one of them, the poor so-and-so, the chef, went down with the vessel. One crew lost his life, the chef, who was clearing up pots and pans as they fell all over the place.
He'd be down below, wouldn't he? Yeah. Okay, Dickie. Look, I'm ever so sorry, mate. I've got to go.
Okay. Good luck with the launch.
And thanks very much. Okay. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
I wish you fair winds and easy seas.